21 years old, massive walkout. And I love that you shared the emotion of just sheer confusion. Whoa, what's going on? And a lot of times leaders, when that moment hits them, when you're not completely sure what really is going on, this has not been an intentional poor leadership act, it's just kind of happened. There's a couple ways you can react to that. And your reaction was you really doubled down and said, okay, I'm going to dig into this and find out what really happened. So what did that look like for you? What were your actions over those minutes, hours, days, and weeks right after that massive walkout?
At first, I was angry at them. I remember thinking, how could they do this to me? I'm paying them. It's only a 3-week job. Why did you commit to this if you were just going to quit? And then sheer panic set in when I realized how many apartments I had left to clean, and I only had 15 people. So I wish I could say that I originally wanted to get them back because I wanted to dig deep and figure it out and make it right. But really, I had to get these apartments clean. So I went and found the 15 people who didn't get the memo to quit and asked them if they would help me get these others back. And we came up with this plan to invite everyone to my house that night for a meeting. And we begged them to come, and we said they would get their paycheck early if they showed up. So everyone showed up, and I didn't prepare what to say. And so I just remember standing in front of them and being completely afraid and just being honest and saying I had no clue what I was doing. I've never been a leader before. I've never owned a company before. And people in the back are joking like, we can tell this is not going well. And I just was honest though. I said, I'm freaking out. I don't know what I'm going to do. I need you. I need your help. And what I realized now is I was vulnerable and in that moment. And I shared my fear, and I shared that I needed their help, and I admitted that. And I think they saw me as a human being and not as this heartless leader who sits in the air-conditioned clubhouse with their feet propped up. And so one kind of shouted out, I'll come back. And then it was this domino effect, and we went back to the apartments that night. And that was my first real lesson in leadership, that it's definitely not sitting in a clubhouse. You have to be with your people. You have to be willing to do the work that you're asking them to do, and you have to make them feel like you see them and you care about them.
Because that really was the big impetus for the walkout. They just felt like you're not involved at all. They're doing all the hard work. And when you're their same age, this is very interesting, because I think if you were twice their age, maybe not the same reaction, but there was some injustice there, wasn't there?
Yes. And I think too, they understood that this was my first time doing this. I really, my heart was in the right place. I didn't know anything about leadership. So after that, I learned their names. I learned what they were studying. I asked them about their families. I would walk them to their apartments and help them carry their supplies. I would walk around with water bottles. I would help them clean, and I think we became a family that summer. And when it was over, no one wanted their jobs to end, including me. And that's why in the end, I decided to give up this idea of moving to New York. And everyone in my life was like, what are you doing? A cleaning company? But there was just something about it that I knew I was on the right path.
Okay, so give us a fast version of the growth from that moment. So that's your first leadership crisis, also really your first big leadership lesson, as you just shared. So you get them back in there and you take care of that contract. What did the growth look like? What intentionality did you begin to pursue from that moment on?
Well, the following year, my senior year, the business grew a lot. We clean not only houses and apartments and things, but we're also a concierge service. So we walk dogs and house sit. And so I almost had to drop out of school. That we grew tremendously my last year in college. And then as the business continued to grow, I realized that what I was really excited about and passionate about, well, it definitely wasn't the cleaning. It was helping the people in my company grow and learn. And I think because I was learning how to be a leader, I wanted to help them learn the things that I was learning myself. So over the years, we've really transformed to become more of an education company. We still clean toilets, yes. But the whole mission behind Student Maid is that we want our people to leave better than when they came in. They take classes on things like confrontation and how to build meaningful relationships and how to listen. And we want them to leave with a skill set that really sets them apart, and that really the skills that you really need to be successful, but unfortunately maybe aren't taught in school.
Yeah, now this I want to dive into because I absolutely love it. I think it's a differentiator, and I think no matter who you are listening in right now, folks, you need to take a listen to this and take some notes, because this is you pouring resources, not just recognizing people and rewarding. Those are two R's that leaders get. but resources. You're intentional about this. So how does it work? I'm assuming, and if I'm wrong, tell me, is the student Maid, does it pay for the classes that you just referred to?
Yes. So before our students really learn how to dust or vacuum, they take a 4-hour workshop where they learn about their strengths and their behavior type, and they learn about listening and empathy and vulnerability. And we do that because it's kind of like sending them a message. We are here to invest in you. And so much that we are paying you to come to this class that has nothing to do with cleaning at all, you know? And I think people come to Student Maid now, and when they apply for a job, they'll say, is this the place where you learn how to be a leader? And we'll joke and say, yeah, but you also have to clean toilets.
Yeah.
And, you know, everything we do is about that learning and growing.
When did you make that decision? How far in the journey of running this company did you go, okay, we're going to start training people before they ever actually get on site and clean something?
I don't think it was a conscious decision. I think it was just something that as I learned myself, because remember, I didn't have any experience. So all the things that we're teaching our people now are the things that I had to learn. And I just wanted to help the people around me. So it started very early with me just calling, having little sessions at the office where I would teach them maybe what I read in a book or what I had learned in a workshop that I had just taken. But I would say we formalized it and really became intentional about it about 3 years ago.
Interesting. And do you believe to this day that it comes out of that first meeting where everybody walked out and you wanted to, going forward, make sure that your team knew that you cared about them?
Yes. And I think, I really became obsessed with leadership. I mean, when you have 45 people walk out on you and you're 21, kind of like, oh. So it really sparked this obsession. I mean, I would go to the bookstore every Friday and just read about leadership. And I really wanted to become a better leader. And then as I was doing that, I thought, how selfish is it of me to learn all of this and keep it to myself? I want to share this with the people around me. And so, yeah, I think that the 45, I call them, I'm so grateful for them because I don't know what would have happened had they not walked out.
Okay, what's the model now? Because the thing has grown, tremendously from those early days. Still, a majority of your workforce are students who come in. They know that it's a temporary gig. They're going to get. Now you've got this reputation, sounds like, where they come in and they go, all right, I'm going to learn something else, and I'm going to make an hourly rate. What's the breakdown of your team versus office people or people that are executives with you versus your workforce?
Sure. Well, we have a pretty small executive team. There are 5 of us, and many of the 5 started with the company as students cleaned, decided that after graduation they didn't want to leave the company. And, we employ all kinds of students, people who are studying, maybe they're in high school, maybe they're in college, maybe they're in cosmetology school, maybe they're getting their PhD. And sometimes we hire people who aren't students. If someone really, really fits our culture, we don't believe that being a student, defines who you are or your heart, of course. So we attract people based off of values, our culture. And it's interesting, we've actually kind of scaled back in our business because we've realized that really to create this culture, you have to be so intentional. You have to really make sure that you're not growing too quickly. So we had a second location, and we used to employ upwards of 500 people at times during the year. And what we realized is in those times, our culture suffered. And we would put the workshops and the curriculum on hold, and we would during our busy times, and we didn't want to do that anymore. So we made a decision that was really scary to scale back, to not do our busy summer season to the level that we had done, to actually sell our second location. And the fact is, we're really excited about education and curriculum. So what we're doing now is we're taking what we've done in our business and we're helping other organizations create programs similar to ours. So it's just interesting how, you can start in a cleaning company and then it turns to this. But I think it just shows you just never know. It doesn't matter your industry or what you do.
That's exactly right. I mean, the fact that the service your company offers is cleaning, but you're really in the people business because now you're writing books and you're out there speaking on this kind of stuff. And again, the whole premise of the book is permission to screw up. Let's get there. We're going to get back into some other stuff. About what you learned, and I want to specifically talk to you about millennials, which are now the largest demographic in the American workforce. And I'm not a millennial, I'm Gen X, but I'm a little bit tired of millennial becoming like this dirty word. And I think it's grossly unfair. We'll get to that. That's a little bit of a tease, folks. permission to screw up. When you write a book like this, and you got Seneca and Godin, people that our audience know very, very well, saying, "Hey, there's really something here." And really, at the heart of this, there's a vulnerability in your story. But what you're really challenging readers with is what? What do you really want them to get out of this book?
Well, my hope is that in the end, people will talk about their screw-ups more, because I think we've made failure uncomfortable. We've made admitting that we don't have the answers the scary thing. I think in leadership, we believe it's our job to make people feel safe and secure and to be strong. And all those things are true, but it doesn't mean that we have to be perfect. It doesn't mean that we have to have it all together all the time. And sometimes when you can admit to your people, hey, I don't know what to do in this situation, or I am scared, or I really messed up, you're actually building trust, because we know that no one is perfect. So when you pretend like you are, we tend to not trust that person, right? But this wasn't the book I started to write. I started to write about success, all the things that I had learned, all, the amazing accomplishments that Student Maid had. And then it just felt empty. And I actually went to dinner with Simon Sinek, and we were talking about the book. And I just said, how do you know if you're writing the right book? And he said to me, in my experience, it is the right book if it is really hard to write. And I thought about that. And this book was not hard to write, and threw it away. And I went a year and a half past my deadline and almost threw my computer off a balcony several times. But I think I know now why many people don't write about this kind of thing, because it's hard. You have to go back. You have to think about all the things you did wrong. You have to go back and revisit things that maybe you aren't proud of, stories that don't paint you in the best light. And you have to talk about those. And so I think this is a book that, instead of focusing on the lessons I learned, it's how I learned them.
Yes.
And so I learned to empower people by being completely controlling and micromanaging. I learned to make people feel valued by making people feel this big. And that stuff's not fun to admit, but I just hope that in sharing this book, that other people will have the courage to admit those things. Because I think when we can do that, we make leadership attainable. Mm-hmm. Otherwise we're comparing ourselves to these seemingly perfect people, and we think, I'm not cut out for that. I can't do that. That's right.